Hello and welcome to a new video on API 576. In this playlist we are going to talk about API 576, that is pressure relieving device. This playlist is intended for the people who are working towards API ICP examination and for the people who just want to learn about how in-service inspection of pressure relieving devices are taking place. So inspection frequency, section 9. In the last video we have talked about section 8 and section 7. So section 9, the inspection of pressure relieving device provides the data that can be evaluated to determine a safe economical frequency of scheduled inspection. Understand this one thing, we already know this, that inspection cannot be carried out every day. So we need to make sure that the interval is such that we would get the results, we would get the reliability of the equipment, and the inspection should not be increasing a drastic cost towards the equipment handling. This frequency varies widely with the various operating conditions and environment to which the relief devices are subjected. The inspection may be less frequent when the operation is satisfactory and more frequent when the corrosion, fouling, operation upsets and leakage problem occurs. A definite time interval between inspection or test should be established for every pressure relieving device or operating equipment. Depending on the operating experiences, this interval may vary from one installation to another. The time interval should be sufficiently firm to ensure that the inspection or the test is made, but it should also be flexible enough to permit the revision as justified by the past test records. In API 510, the subsection on the pressure relieving devices states that the following for the pressure relieving devices inspection interval, unless documented experience or RV assessment indicates that a longer interval is acceptable, the test and inspection intervals for pressure relieving devices as typical process services should not exceed 5 years for typical services and 10 years for clean, non-fouling and non-corrosive services. So API 510 gives us a recommendation that for normal services, typical process services, once in 5 years inspection should be carried out, and for non-toxic, non-corrosive services or non-fouling services, once in 10 years is enough. But again, depends if you are planning to do RB assessment or not. Frequency of shop inspection and overhaul. The interval between shop inspection of overhaul of pressure relieving devices should not exceed the necessary to maintain the device's satisfactory operating and condition. The frequency of shop inspection overhauls is normally determined by the operating experience in the various services involved. Normally, the interval of a device in a corrosive or a fouling service would be shorter than the interval required for the same device in a clean, non-fouling and non-corrosive service. Likewise, more frequent inspection and testing may be needed for the pressure relief device subjected to vibration, pulsating load, load differential between the set and operating pressures and other circumstances leading to the valve leakage and potentially poor performance. Manufacturer's basis. The manufacturers of the pressure relieving devices are sometimes able to assist the user in establishing the inspection and test intervals, especially if their design contains a feature and components that require special consideration. For example, if it may be necessary to inspect or replace certain parts such as non-metallic diaphragms and pilot operating valves at frequencies greater than those required as the part of conventional pressure relieving valves, the rupture disc and bellow valves may also require special consideration. Manufacturers are familiar with the nature of loading, stress level and operating limitation of their design and are able to suggest an inspection interval appropriate for their equipment. Jurisdictional basis, some jurisdictional requirements, if there are, then also those needs to be followed or you'll be out of compliance. RBI assessments can also be done. Again, we already know this. RBI assessment recommendation would be given in API 580 and the methodologies are given in API 581 that can be followed. Frequency of on-steam visual inspection. As noted in 8.1, the on-steam visual inspection are intended to find problems with the maintenance and operating practices surrounding the pressure relieving devices. The interval selected should vary with circumstances based on the results of previous on-steam inspection. Maximum interval for visual on-steam inspection should be 5 years. Although not always full visual on-steam inspection, some companies perform the inspection for leakage, vibration, damage each time the relief device operates. Time of inspection. Initially, when the new installation is done, some inspection would be carried out. Routine inspection would be done. Unscheduled inspection would also be done depending on what is the service condition. If the corrosion is subjected, fouling is subjected, some unscheduled inspection can also be done based on the operating history. Inspection after extended shutdowns, inspection after servicing deferrals. So deferrals are basically if you're not servicing at the time it was intended, you can defer it, but deferral would generally be based on API 510 or 570, depending on which equipment's pressure relieving devices you are inspecting. 10 is records and reports. The suitable system of keeping records and generating reports is essential for the effective administration and control of any pressure relieving devices program in process industry. The system should be simple and as clear as possible. Need to keep the records. Records are very important for us. For each pressure relieving devices in service, a complete permanent record should be kept. The record of each device should include its specification, data including size, sizing calculation, continuously accumulating histories of inspection and test results. The specification record provides the basic information needed to evaluate the adequacy of a given given device or for a given installation or for contemplated change in operating conditions. Provides the correct dimension and material information needed to minimize shop errors and expedite repairs, and provide the design information that facilitates the purchase of similar device that is required to inventory the spare parts. Responsibilities. The duties and responsibilities entailed by various facets of inspection and testing program for pressure relieving devices should be clearly defined to avoid confusion and be explicitly assigned to assure compliance. The responsibility for engineering or inspection may include, but they are not limited to, furnish specification, sizing calculation for relief devices and connected pipings, to determine the allowable pressure settings, to specify test intervals, to record service data, to prepare list for devices due for inspection, to review inspection, overhaul results and identifying address issue, review, approve or purchase replacement valves or spare parts, ensure PID, match the field installation and equipment protected, to conduct visual on-steam inspection and requisite interval, to conduct profile radiograph for inlet and outlet piping and specified intervals looking for corrosion and fouling, to ensure that new or modified equipment is reviewed for adequate overpressure protection. Responsibilities for operation or inspection may include, but they are not limited to, initiate work request, to see that the device are reinstalled in their proper location, to prepare in service reports, to check for leaking valves, rupture disc, to check the correct blocks valves are locked and sealed open as close as required, to check vents and drains for operability, to check the upstream and downstream piping of blockage, and to perform condition assessment of the inspection. Responsibilities of maintenance may include, but they are not limited to, perform mechanical work required, repair, test, reinstall and attach identification tags to the devices, maintain specification records for facilitating repairs, furnish test reports and initiate purchase order for spare parts. Sample are given in Annex A and Annex B. That's it for this video. In this entire document, depending if you are working towards API 570 and 653, this document just have to read it once. Okay, again, in the body of knowledge, things are given where you need to focus yourself. But if you are working towards a pressure vessel inspection, in that case, the entire document has to be read at least once, and some understanding has to be achieved that why we are testing the pressure relieving devices, what is the work of a pressure relieving devices, how many types of pressure relieving devices are there, what are some causes that a pressure relieving devices can fail. All of these things an inspector should know. Okay, so that's it for this series on API 576. In the next series we'll be talking about something else. Okay, that's it, and thank you for this video.